Welcome to this video series on Catholic approach to palliative care. Palliative care is a relatively new branch of medicine especially designed for people living with serious or advanced illness. Multiple research studies show that people with serious illness feel better, get the kind of medical care that matches their values and priorities, and sometimes even live longer when they receive palliative care. Each of these videos will introduce a topic that is important to people of faith who are living with serious illness. In this 6-part video series, we will discuss palliative care, advanced care planning, explore the Christian roots of palliative care, and the special importance of the sacraments of baptism and the Eucharist to people living with advanced illness. Consider the important work of being a caregiver for someone who has advanced illness. Each video is about 20 minutes and has a discussion guide to go with it. We encourage you to watch the videos in a group parish setting and take the time after the video to discuss what you've watched. Each discussion guide also has links to resources to help you learn more about the uniquely Catholic approach to palliative care. These videos have been viewed by multiple health ministry teams, parish nurses across the U.S., and endorsed by Catholic leaders like myself. We hope that they will be a blessing for you as you live with or care for people who are living with serious illness. If you have additional questions or would like more resources, please feel free to visit the Supportive Care Coalition's website. Thank you, and may the peace of Christ be with you always.
I was diagnosed with heart failure 2 years ago when I couldn't catch my breath, and my legs started to swell up and I couldn't get them to go down. After my heart doctor gave me the news, she also told me that I'd have to have another team, a palliative care team, who would be part of my care. And at first I really didn't want to see that many doctors, but then I learned actually the palliative care team wasn't just doctors. It was a nurse who I could call when I had a question, and a social worker that helped me get some new equipment for the bathroom, and a chaplain who I could pray with me and support me in my faith. Every so often, the palliative care team would meet with me and my whole family, and this was really helpful. They'd update us on all the latest test results, let us understand it, and they'd help us get ready for decisions we might have to make down the road. My wife's kind of a planning freak, and she really helped her in that part about thinking ahead, made her feel more comfortable. During one of the meetings with the palliative care team, they asked me if I had ever made advanced directives. And I thought, I had taken care of that. I mean, I had looked at my financial information. I was taken care of, my family be taken care of. But they said advanced directives is something different from that. It's a paper where I decide what I want, who I want to speak for me, if I'm not available to speak or if I can't speak, and also what kind of medical treatments I'm willing to accept, and what medical treatments I don't want to have. It sounded really good, but I told the team before I sign anything, I'd like to talk with Father Conroy and see what he thinks. Father Conroy told me that his mother had an advanced directive and had helped him and his brothers and sister know what to do when she got sicker and needed to make decisions about medical treatments. She also made Father Conroy the person who would speak for her when she couldn't anymore. Father said it was a big shift in responsibility, but he was happy to do it once he knew it made his mother more peaceful, knowing that she would have someone to take care of him who she loved and who loved her in just the way they talked about. I wouldn't say that it was easy to talk about that kind of stuff, but I'm glad I have an advanced directive, not just for me, but for my wife and kids too.
Welcome. My name is MC Sullivan, and I'm the Chief Healthcare Ethicist for the Archdiocese of Boston. Today's topic is one that I think is almost self-explanatory in the language that we use to address it. That is, when we talk about advanced care planning, we're talking about picking plans in advance, and specifically, making plans in advance for healthcare. But more than that, When we talk about making plans in advance for our healthcare, we want to address making informed decisions about things that may need to be done or things that we don't want to have done, possibly during times when we may not be able to participate in the conversation. So the point of advanced care planning is to think about how we want our healthcare delivered, where we want our healthcare delivered, while we are well, before we have a serious illness or an accident. I'd like to start our discussion today with Mr. J's story that you heard just a bit ago. He is a 76-year-old man diagnosed with heart failure about 2 years ago. When he was diagnosed, his cardiologist referred him to the palliative care team, and that's helped him to feel well enough to continue babysitting his granddaughter and going to bingo once a week. The team's social worker has helped him find a support group for other people with heart failure. The team chaplain has helped Mr. J reconnect with his Catholic faith and find more peace with God. However, over the past few months, Mr. J has had more trouble breathing and more swelling, and that makes it difficult to take care of his granddaughter. While his palliative care doctor is hopeful that Mr. J will continue to do well for a long time, she's also worried that Mr. J could take a sudden turn for the worse. And if that happens, she wants to make sure that Mr. J and his family have talked about what kinds of medical treatments Mr. J would and would not want if he became sicker. Also, the doctor wants to make sure she knows who Mr. J would want to be his spokesperson if there came a time when he was too sick to participate in conversations about his medical care. So what Mr. J's doctor is talking about is called advanced care planning. Advanced care planning is something that anyone over 18 years of age can do, even if you don't have a serious medical condition. And certainly we would want to have it if we have a serious illness. So what exactly is advanced care planning? Let's start by looking at some definitions that are out there for us to consider. The National Institute on Aging tells us that advanced care planning involves learning about types of decisions that might need to be made, considering those decisions ahead of time, and then letting others know about your preferences, oftentimes like putting them into an advance directive. The International Society of Advanced Care Planning and End-of-Life Care tells us that advanced care planning is a process of communication between individuals and their healthcare agents to understand, reflect on, discuss, and plan for future healthcare decisions for a time when the individuals are not able to make their own healthcare decisions. The Centers for Disease Control tells us advanced care planning is about doing what you can do to ensure that healthcare treatment you may receive is consistent with your wishes and preferences should you be unable to make your own decision or to speak for yourself. So just looking at these three definitions, we can see that they share in common some wonderful elements. They all speak of having conversations ahead of the time when you need them. They all emphasize that the conversations are about your values and your goals, your preferences that might either inform or guide your decision-making about your healthcare. And they all include the importance of naming a healthcare agent. That's probably the first thing to think about. And certainly it's the first thing I encourage people to do when we talk about advanced care planning. There may well come a time when you cannot speak for yourself. And in that period, you will want to have someone you trust completely and name that person as your healthcare proxy, your power of attorney for healthcare. That's another phrase that means the same thing essentially. Different jurisdictions have different names for this, but we understand they all function in the same fashion. They are legally recognized individuals who speak with your voice. They stand in your shoes. When you can no longer think or speak for yourself, or you can no longer make decisions or articulate your healthcare wishes, your proxy is activated. This agent becomes your voice and speaks for you with full binding legal authority with regard to healthcare decisions. It's a position of tremendous trust, and it's an amazing privilege that we've been granted, and it is recognized and upheld by law. But like every privilege, it comes with responsibility. And the responsibilities we have that when we name an agent, we let that person know that they've been made our agent. And at that point, we begin a series of ongoing discussions and conversations to keep our healthcare agent apprised of what's going on with us health-wise, of what we're thinking about any new illnesses or new available treatments, about our responses to treatments that we've had so far, so that they're walking the journey with us and are fully informed about what our thoughts and decisions would be as we're presented with more options. Many times people feel as though someone close to them probably needs to know their healthcare wishes and preferences, and therefore there's no call for a document to back that up. That's probably not the right notion. We shouldn't go into this with any assumptions. At the time when you cannot participate in conversations about your medical care, the time when you would need someone to speak for you, it's too late to name someone. You can't tell us what your decisions are. And many times the people who love you the most are left guessing who should speak for you, what kind of medical treatment would be acceptable or unacceptable to you. It's crucially important that you pick someone to speak for you. Maybe a family member, maybe a close friend, maybe a colleague, maybe a member of your religious community, someone who knows your medical situation and knows that you have selected them to speak for you. This person is someone who can step in and be your voice if and when the time comes. The Center to Advance Palliative Care has a wonderful definition for advanced care planning. It's a process of communication between the patient, family, and healthcare proxy for purposes of identifying a proxy or surrogate. First of all, that would be that someone to speak for you ahead of time. It includes clarifying your treatment preferences and developing individualized goals of care. That would be your preferences for your medical care near the end of life. What's wonderful about this definition is that it introduces the idea that this is an ongoing process that once started is continued in many conversations that include all the people who are likely to be involved in our care as our disease progresses, our spokesperson or surrogate, our family, and our healthcare team. We want all of those people to know us and know our thoughts and wishes for what kind of medical treatment we do and do not want. Wikipedia, and we all love Wikipedia, has one of the best definitions of advanced care planning. It is a process that enables individuals to make plans about their future health care. Advanced care plans provide direction to healthcare professionals when a person is not in a position to either make or communicate their own healthcare choices. Advanced care planning is applicable to adults at all stages of life. Participation in advanced care planning has been shown to reduce stress and anxiety for patients and their families, and they lead to improvements in end-of-life care. So advanced care planning is a process that allows people to make plans in advance for their future health care, and it allows someone to be designated and known to be designated to stand in our shoes and make decisions for us when we cannot make decisions for ourselves. I quickly referred to the fact that the designation of a healthcare proxy endows that person to make legally binding decisions about the care of the person who has chosen that proxy. These decisions, whether made by the patient or the proxy, are meant to be informed decisions. That is, where the person making the decisions is informed about what is under consideration, what the issue or problem is, what is being offered as treatment or location for treatment, what the options for treatment are, and the benefits or risks of each option. In order for legal requirements to be met then, it's really necessary that the person who is designated be able to make those decisions. The proxy should have reached legal age in the state where the documentation takes place. That's sometimes called the age of majority. So if you hear that phrase, it means someone has reached a legal age in that state. Also, the person who is the eventual patient making the designation of the proxy and completing the related documentation also has to have achieved legal age or the age of majority. So what are some available tools to start your own advanced care planning process? Virtually every state in the United States has a downloadable healthcare proxy. You just go to the nameofyourstate.gov or Google and just say healthcare proxy for whatever state you live in. Often you will also find that Catholic state conferences as well have provided legal and binding healthcare proxies that may also have added instructions such as please call a priest, I would like the sacraments, please offer things that are consistent with Catholic teaching, or things like that. It is similar with the durable power of attorney for healthcare if your state allows for this. It is also a downloadable form from your government website. A living will is much the same as a healthcare proxy or durable power of attorney document. However, not all states recognize living wills, so you'll need to check in the state where you live. Above all, one of the things that we want to remember is that these documents are static documents. They don't change on their own. And so the responsibility is to go back and review them and revise them as necessary as your conditions change, as your knowledge changes, as church teaching becomes more applicable. Whatever is the case, you need to continually go back and check on these documents to make sure that they are still relevant and adequate. Archdioceses or state Catholic conferences also have resources on choosing a healthcare proxy. Links to these resources are included in the discussion guide for this video. So there are many other wonderful resources out there that are designed not just to complete a document, but to encourage a conversation. As we heard in the definitions that were offered earlier, this whole process is meant to be a series of ongoing conversations. The completion of a document should not indicate that my work is done. These documents are static. That is to say, they don't change on their own. So as circumstances change, as our conditions, our health conditions change, as our information changes, as we learn more about church teaching, there are many reasons to revisit and, as needed, revise these static documents. But it's wonderful to have the resources that encourage this ongoing conversation. One of these resources is called Caring Conversations. Another is called 5 Wishes. Yet another is called the Conversation Project. Links to all of these organizations are in the discussion guide for this video. Thank you very much for joining us today. We are delighted to have this opportunity to speak with you about such an important topic, and we hope that this is just the beginning of your own conversation and research about advanced care planning.